gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 9th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game S Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Metroid Prime is still better than your favorite game. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game S Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm feeling my mortality every day, but that's fine because we're here on a Thursday morning to not only feel that all together and just rub up on our mortality, but feel the game news. Let the mess permeate through our pores.
Yeah, I'm grubbing up on it for sure. Like, let's just it's the best way I like to feel like I'm dying.
Yeah,
It's just the game news.
Let's grub up on it.
Without a doubt. I've been having complaints. No one in chat ever complained. No one in the comments, but one of my mods on my Discord would point out that I was saying 2022 throughout the entirety of January, and I just realized it's because I never updated it in the doc, and I just read what's there. I just read the words that are there. I don't think about what I'm saying. That's for suckers. I could just read what's written here. And so I just updated it now for the Thursday doc. I don't know if all the other ones, most of them I have updated. I think this might be the last one, but there might be one more out there. So place your bets to see if we get one more 2022 out of me for this year.
Now I'm purposely going to go in and change all of these.
There you go. That's what you should be doing. Absolutely. And then I want to feel like I'm dying and losing my mind. I can't have one without the other, Jan.
Duality of man, as I always say, Grubb. Duality of man.
How are you doing? How's this week going? It was a busy day yesterday, but it's busy week. But yeah, how are you doing?
Let me tell you, that direct, I feel like rejuvenated me.
Me too.
It's not that we're in a lull. Good games have come out. I started Hi-Fi Rush. You're 100% right. It's an amazing game. I was thinking that I wish graphics or like performance and how these new consoles are going to push video games. I kind of wish they went in that Sly Cooper direction.
Yeah.
Into this where it's like, I just want to feel like I'm playing a cartoon versus playing like a really real looking dude.
Yeah, it's like we could have had both at the very least, but it does feel like we went really hard in the real looking dude direction for a very long time with, occasionally some style on top of that, but still mostly in that direction. And it's like, oh, wait, we could have been going in the Sly Cooper direction this entire time. And that might have been equally as good, if not better. For me, it's better. But I mean, especially after Hi-Fi Rush, just looks so fantastic. It's timeless. That's what people mean when they keep saying it reminds them of GameCube and Dreamcast. Those are some timeless games on there. This is another timeless game because of the way it looks. Yeah, I'm super into Hi-Fi Rush.
And I feel like, we're going to, at least me personally, I'm going to look back at racing games the past couple of years. And I feel like I'm going to remember Need for Speed Unbound very fondly because of how stylish it is versus Gran Turismo 7. No shade on Gran Turismo 7, just like it's another one of these.
Yeah, I think a style always stands out, right? And I think Need for Speed's the way the direction they went with that stuff was just it's mostly realistic with some extra sauce on top, but that goes a long way, especially when games begin to look very similar, which was we always knew that was the risk, right, of going towards photorealism. Then you minimize how important style is. I think a lot of developers are starting to realize that they can bring some of the flair back, and that goes a long way. And then, again, in Hi-Fi Rush's case, if you make that your entire thing, it can really make you stand out. And have people like me being like, how is this only $30? I will pay more for this game. But yeah, absolutely.
Give me Auto Modelista.
Yeah. Why don't we have? Why have there been 7 of those? Give me 7 Auto Modelista. I can't say that either. Auto Modelista.
Yes.
I think
I'm going to definitively say that's how we're going to say it.
No notes. We nailed it. All right. We have a lot to get into, but before we do is explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game S Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we do have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning best. But also, it's mostly Nintendo Direct. It felt like everyone got out of the way of the Direct, and so there wasn't a ton of news. But we can go over this Direct. Let's give people a recap of what happened. Have a little bit of conversation about how we're feeling today. Let's go in the order of like biggest to smallest, I think, or as best we can. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom got a new trailer. Pre-orders are up. We'll talk about some other details about how much money they want you to pay to pre-order it. But that trailer, I watched it again. I missed some of the details the first time. It really is going for nuts and bolts, it looks like. How are you feeling about this? I guess, let's double check. How did you feel about Breath of the Wild? Like, where's it sat with you since then? And where have you been in terms of Tears of the Kingdom, in terms of how excited you are for that?
I think I'm trying to temper my expectations for Tears of the Kingdom, because initially I think I gave too much into the hullabaloo of, the stamina system. It's really hard to climb when it's raining. Weapon and durability stuff. I think I gave too much into that rather than actually enjoying the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my time post all of that, like takes of that diminishing the game. I think it's just a fun world to run around. I feel like I understand how people feel about running around Red Dead Redemption 2's world. And I know it's a smaller scale here, but I think just the ability to do whatever and how much the game has been opened up by people that have only spent time in Breath of the Wild. Watching people speedrun that game or just absolutely boss through a Lionel with a naked Link is absolutely fascinating, and just seeing that they're kind of leaning into that DIY-ness that people wound up exploiting in Breath of the Wild for Tears of the Kingdom. I'm all about it. I never got into nuts and bolts, and I feel like I missed the boat big time with that.
It's really good on backward compatibility on the Xbox these days. It actually looks incredible. It's okay. So the reason we keep saying nuts and bolts for people who might be wondering there's a portion in the trailer where Link is driving across the field in what looks like a platform with wheels, something that you might slap together as a player. And then later he is flying through the air on a platform with hover jets on it. And then he is there's another one where it's there's a platform that's attached to a balloon. All those things look like player created objects. And really, it fits with what Breath of the Wild was doing originally. This physics-based engine where you can mess around and the world pushes back against you, which is what that the climbing. Oh, during the rain, it's hard to climb. Yeah, it's the world pushing back against you, so you come up with creative solutions or whatever, or you go to try to do something else. You interact with other parts of the world. It's okay, well, what is something else in that vein they could expand on? And the idea of making little vehicles that can get around and accomplish tasks. I think that fits right in. It's just funny that how much it looks exactly like Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts. I'm a little surprised it looks just like that, but I'm here for it. To me, I'm still very excited about that.
I'm so with it. And I missed the boat on nuts and bolts. Definitely not gonna miss the boat on this. Grubb, it's gonna be so good. Imagine a boat with wheels.
A boat with wheels. It's not. You can do whatever you want. I don't think the game's gonna be able to stop you. That's one of the cool things about Breath of the Wild. It's you come up with an idea, you could probably pull it off, and to expand that into building vehicles and then seeing what they can do, I have to see that.
What are the enemies, the goblins, called in Breath of the Wild or Zelda again?
They're in Mogoblins or something. What?
Goblins?
Moblins? Yeah, Bokoblins. Yes, Bokoblins. Moblins and Bokoblins.
I can't wait to run them over.
Yes. Yeah, and they're going to be like, what? Why'd you do that? Because you're Bokoblin, I got to. Yeah, they're gonna have that face what the hell, man? And I'm like, yeah, this is what I do in a Zelda game. That's gonna be real fun. Yeah, you could make a steamroller or something. I have no idea what we're gonna do now. This was the new tidbit in that trailer. It felt where the rest of it was. There probably were other tidbits. That's the one that was most noticeable to me. It's this is something new to latch onto as what this game is going for. The rest of it felt okay, they're establishing Link's got his arm messed up and there's something going on there, and there's some sort of curse chasing after him. Story stuff, setting up the world, and okay, yeah, I'll kind of experience that once I go through the story. other than the nuts and bolts stuff, I'm like, I think me and a lot of other people are like, okay, we still don't fully know what this game is promising and putting up there. This trailer didn't really actually answer a ton of questions and really just kind of brought up more, like we've been asking them, like, what is this nuts and bolts stuff? So I guess, are you expecting to hear more about Tears of the Kingdom from Nintendo here pretty soon? Because I am.
Yes, yeah. I anticipate, if not a full direct, we're gonna get like a developer narrated trailer or breakdown of the game, at least, just to set the story of like, this takes place 5 years after Breath of the Wild, blah 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 blah, blah. Like a nice soft voiceover. Also, there's a lot of talking in the game, and I guess I just don't remember it from Breath of the Wild, but like
there wasn't a ton of it in Breath of the Wild, but it's like in that first section when you meet the king, he talks a little bit during like one of the videos and stuff, or one of the cinematics.
Yeah, and yeah, I want to know more. I'd never really gotten super duper into a Zelda, but man, I don't know, Grubb. It's tearing me apart. It's tearing me apart. These tears are tearing me apart.
Well, good news. You can pay $70 to tear or put these things back together. This game's going to be $70. They confirmed this yesterday. They didn't say it during the direct. What they did was, hey, you could pre-order it now. People went on the eShop. I was like looking at, okay, well, Walmart, Amazon, no one has it for $70. And then everyone's like, well, just check the eShop. I'm like, oh yeah, it's on the eShop for $70, and that is a lot of money. Most people, I think, are kind of in that same place where $70 still feels like a sticker shock. We've been so used to $60 for so long. And I think most people, even everyone that knew, including me, that Nintendo would raise prices to $70 eventually, just assumed they would wait until they had new hardware. They did not wait until they had new hardware. They were like, hey, we know people will pay $70 for Zelda, so that's what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are other places that also charge $70 for games that probably will not be of the same quality of Tears of the Kingdom. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality. I think this is whether this is ignorance, I think I trust Nintendo here.
Yeah,
especially because it's Zelda. If this was ARMS 2, I don't know if I'd pay $70, but because it's Tears of the Kingdom, sequel to Breath of the Wild, I'll give them this one.
Yeah, right. That's where I'm at. Like, everything's worth what people will pay for it, right? So this is the one I will definitely pay $70 for. And if other people won't, you should definitely criticize Nintendo. Go to town. Do what you got to do here. I feel like we've seen the toothpaste come out of the tube for the whole price increase here. PlayStation did it and was like, we're doing it for everything, including like Returnal, games that people are like, oh, this is obviously a good game, but it feels a little bit smaller. It's like, no, $70. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. And then third-party publishers were like, Gotham Knights is $70. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's weird, but I guess at a certain point you can get away with it because everyone else is doing it, right? And then, so when Zelda comes along at $70, the conversation's already happened. And when you look at the shelf and you see all these third-party games that are 70, it's like, well, Nintendo, of course, is going to try to pull that off too. Now, preceding this, Nintendo did bring back its coupon day. It brought back its 2 games for $100 voucher. So they had this thing a long time ago. It's been in other territories for a very long time, but in the United States, or at least in the United States, maybe in North America, they brought it back where you can spend $100 and Nintendo gives you 2 vouchers that you can redeem on their first party games for the most part. And that now does include this $70 Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So if you want, you just say, hey, I'm going to solve this by giving Nintendo $100 now for this game, and then I'm going to commit to getting another game later. Or maybe you could just get Kirby now, or the new Kirby game, or Pikmin 4. Pre-order that. That's available for pre-order. But to me, it's like, man, that always just feels like it is manipulation. That's what it is. It's like, hey, give us even more money so you buy 2 games, and then you're basically you're losing money if you don't do this. It's like, yeah, I'm going to talk myself into it. You're right. But yeah, the $70 kind of makes that feel even more valuable. So I don't know. Have you ever done that voucher system thing before on the Switch?
No, but I love coupons. I love coupons. Yeah. I love upselling myself.
Yes.
And with all the other stuff that we're bound to talk about today, I'm like, okay, I'll bite, sure.
Yeah, it's
2 games for 100. All right.
Yeah, especially because it does. It's like so easy to do the math in your head, and it's like, well, they made up the number 70. This is like nothing's really changed here. I'm still getting the same amount of games for that voucher price, but in my head, it's like, well, one is 70 and one's 30. It's that's no, you were paying 100 for both of them. Like it's the same thing as last time, but the math has changed a little bit. So I'm like, well, now I'm getting Pikmin 4 for 30 instead.
Build your own bundle here.
Yes, exactly. Building your own bundle. I am going to do this though. Being in Nintendo jail as I am, buying my Nintendo games, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get Zelda, and probably Pikmin 4 is probably the one I'm gonna get, but we'll see. I wish I could. Can you? People who've had the voucher system for a long time, can you keep doing this? Because if I can keep doing it, I'll just keep doing it. Just give them hundreds of dollars. Why not? Other things from the Direct. Metroid Prime Remastered was confirmed. It's here. They put out an official apology to me. They said they're sorry for doing you like that, Grubb. And I do not accept. No,
that's right.
They confirmed this. It looked really good in the trailer. They said available now. And then people thought it was $40. And this is just very exciting for me because I love Metroid Prime. Jan, it's one of my favorite games of all time. And I opened it up last night. I bought it immediately, opened it up, and started playing. And it is gorgeous. They did such a good job with this. It is fantastic. And so in that trailer, they're kind of showing things off, and then they say, and we updated the controls. So when you're playing the game, you can use dual analog, which is not how it used to work. You used to have tank controls, which I was always fine with. It's actually pretty good for this game because most of the time when you're in battle, you're locking on, and then you are strafing, and then it plays like a Zelda game. Like a 3D Zelda game. So that did work, but clearly this is better. This is more modern. It feels more modern, and it feels great, but I can't get over how good it looks. They updated all the lighting, all the character models, all the creatures. All of it is just so well done. And then for only $40, I mean, yeah, everyone should be playing this, and a lot of people are and having a pretty good time. Any interest in Metroid Prime from you, Jan?
I know that I've heard you talk very highly of this game and how much it means to you. So I definitely want to check it out. It's one of the things I missed out on the GameCube by not having one. I can't help but think, and this is just me conspiracy theorying over here, if you'll allow me for a minute. It's interesting to see all the love and reverence that they put into this Metroid Prime remaster versus how little work they did for GoldenEye. And sometimes I think, I was thinking, did they just not care about GoldenEye because it's also going to come out on other platforms? So let's just put all of our juice into the good baby that's only going to be on ours.
Yeah, honestly, basically, I think you basically have it there. It's a little bit more complicated because all the stakeholders in GoldenEye is so disparate. It's Nintendo, Microsoft, Rare, MGM, and they all have their own ideas of what should happen with it. But when Rare, who made GoldenEye, had a chance to remake GoldenEye, they did a fantastic job on it. Nintendo just said, no, you can't release that, and we never actually got it. And that version sits there finished, playable on an Xbox 360 to this day. And they could have released that, but Nintendo still was like, no, we're going to do this amount of work. So you're only allowed to do this amount of work. It's not that simple. It's just when they sit down to negotiate, they're like, well, we have to throw that version out because we can't have that version on Switch, that improved version, the completely basically remade version. So we have to come up with something new. And in that environment, it's very easy to just sort of, toot out something that isn't much of anything at all. So yeah, but in this case with Metroid Prime, however, Retro Studios, the studio that made the original, just like, hey, we're going to work on this as part of our plan for getting back into Metroid Prime 4 while we are, rebuilding that game. Some part of our teams could be working on this project. And, that happened a long time ago. This game's been done for a long time, but Retro just did a fantastic job because it's from their studio. Now, not everyone that worked at Retro at the time worked on this project. Of course not. A lot of people have left, but still, it's like from when you go to work at a studio like Retro, it's because you want to continue that legacy, and that is evident in this product. And boy, yeah, it was just real nice to go on Twitch last night and see dozens of people playing this game and everyone watching it and everyone being blown away by how good it looks. It's really what I always wanted because I'm always playing Metroid Prime, like I've said before. I'm always playing it wherever I can. When I get a new little handheld that's supposed to be powerful enough for the GameCube, Well, let's load up Metroid Prime. Let's see how it goes. So really what I want is everyone else to play it so we could talk about it. So it's fun.
Have they said or talked about how long this has been in development for? I can't.
No,
I couldn't find anything, but I'm assuming, yeah, okay.
They never mentioned it publicly, no, and not part of this announcement for sure. But it's been years. It's been years, and
Sure.
and that's I think this game's been done for at least a year. Why it took them so long to put it out? Again, that comes back to trying to figure out how Nintendo figures any of these things out. Usually, it seems to be, I think, a capacity of marketing where they're like, let's just let a team focus on this now. But this was Shadow Drop, so why couldn't they? I don't know. There's no actually understanding Nintendo really.
Never.
I guess, we could touch on this a little bit since we're right here. People might be like, okay, but wasn't the original story that there was going to be the Metroid Prime trilogy remastered? Wasn't that supposed to happen? And then what's happening with 2 and 3 if this is just Metroid Prime 1 remaster? Now, if you've been watching for a long time, or if you watched Grubb Snacks way back when we've talked about this before, you might remember that I would say that, Metroid Prime 1. What's happening with 2 and 3 then? 2 and 3 are on the way. They are just not going to get as much love, like I was saying. They should basically get the same kind of control scheme, almost certainly. Like, they're not going to be like, well, here's just the Wii versions. Have fun. They'll get that kind of stuff, but they're not going to get the super detailed, redone textures in a lot of cases. It seems like they're going to be, if this is the big boy remaster, these are going to be the little brother remasters, just regular, plain vanilla remasters. And I think that's better than not doing them at all. That should be pretty cool. But this is the one that really deserves it. This is the one that is like a generational game in terms of its quality and its importance, and sort of being better than anything else for 5 years after it came out, just better than everything else for 5 straight years. And then, so 2 and 3, important, but not nearly as important as Metroid Prime 1. Okay. Next up, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are now on Nintendo Switch Online. I was very excited about this. I've also been messing around with this a little bit. So, like, hey, we're going to do an update to Nintendo Switch Online. And it's, oh man, Game Boy. And then a little Game Boy pops up and they show that. And of course, it's Tetris right there. The Game Boy is on the $20 tier. It does include both Game Boy and Game Boy Color games because they're the same system. So, of course, it does. So the games include Tetris, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, Metroid 2 Return of Samus, Wario Land 3, Gargoyle's Quest, Game & Watch Gallery 3, Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare, and Kirby's Dream Land. I got to see that. I got to play that Alone in the Dark game. I have not touched it yet.
Oh, Grubb, it is questionable.
Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. It looks real kind of messed up. So I need to see it for myself. They are adding more games in the future, of course. They've announced a first wave, Zelda Oracle of Ages, Zelda Oracle of Seasons, Pokemon the Trading Card Game, Kirby Tilt and Tumble. My first question here, Jan, and I'm glad you're here. This does not seem to have any true Pokemon games. How do you feel about that?
I figured it would not have a Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Despite the Zelda and Mario games being full ass games, like Wario Land 3 also, I don't see them putting Red and Blue or like Fire Red, Leaf Green on the GBA tier onto the Nintendo Switch Online service. I feel like if anything, those would just be separate eShop purchases. Because Game Freak like their money.
Yeah, and the Pokemon Company, partially owned by Nintendo, but still has to operate on its own, do what's best for its own bottom line. It's the kind of thing where if I really would have thought about it, it's like, yeah, maybe they'll put an older one on there. No, of course they're not. You're right. They've sold those games separately on the 3DS, and they weren't even. I don't even think they were like sold as eShop games or virtual console games. I think they're just like, no, you can buy Pokemon Yellow on here. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get that, I guess. So yeah, that's not too surprising. That probably won't change. If they want to give you those experiences, they will just sell them individually. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think honestly, seeing the trading card game though is kind of nice. That's a good game. And people will have a chance to go back and experience that without having to worry about what's happening with the online version of the modern trading card game. You can just go back, play the offline Game Boy version, remember your childhood and have a good time. It'll be great for you. Then the Game Boy Advance, that's going to be on the $50 tier, so the expansion pack of Nintendo Switch Online. Boy, it was nice to see that they're doing both, because this is pretty exciting. They have 6 games at launch here: Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, an all-time just straight up classic. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, one that I have ashamedly never really played. Now I will. I'm just going to do it. I've been saying that for a long time, but now I definitely will. Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3. That includes the e-reader levels, so like 36 extra levels there. WarioWare Mega Micro Games, another all-time classic.
Oh my god.
Kuroin, which I started last night. I named my character Tam in his honor for when he failed at it in the arcade pit. And Mario Kart Super Circuit. In the future, they will be adding Metroid Fusion, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Fire Emblem, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, and Golden Sun. So I think we can reset the counter for how many days it's been since Nintendo's mentioned Golden Sun. Congratulations, everybody. That's pretty good. Now, 6 games isn't a lot. Game Boy Advance has a big library. They're starting somewhere. We already know the next 5 games coming. So if you have one that like you hold a torch for and it hasn't been mentioned yet, I can be like, okay, how long are we going to have to wait before that comes? But for me, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga being there is about as close as you get to Metroid Prime, like shadow dropping. That is fantastic. More people should play that game. It's time to go.
100 fucking %. Like, if you have never checked out any of like the Mario RPGs, and have been curious, skip Paper Mario. Just fold that guy, put him away, throw him in the recycling bin. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is the way to go.
Yeah, it's so funny and well animated, and there's so much good character. There's great characters and characterization, but like Fawful and Prince Peasley. Oh man, we've angered the 1,000-year door boys out there, but we can't help it. It's true. I'm fine too. Superstar Saga superiority.
I didn't realize Kuru was a Nintendo published joint. So
I didn't realize it either. I think someone actually might have told us the last time we talked about it, but I think I forgot.
Are we under the assumption that most of the stuff that would head to the Game Boy and GBA on the Nintendo Switch Online service would only be Nintendo published stuff?
I mean,
that kind of limits it.
I'm leaning in that direction. Like I was leaning that way before it even came out, just because Nintendo seems less willing to to share the profits that it's getting from this stuff, and so they want to like do kind of really probably what are bad terms for those third-party games, which is why we've stopped mostly getting them across the board. There are a handful of exceptions. I'm like trying to think of the kinds of publishers that are still putting out games. It's like Majesco or Jalico. Jalico's one, and I don't know.
Oh, shouts out to Jalico.
Yeah, I don't even know who owns Jalico these days, or if it's still an ongoing concern of its own accord. But yeah, I think it's mostly going to be Nintendo first-party published games. Yeah, I think if Nintendo were to do its own Game Boy Micro or something, they might put some third-party games on there because they were able to do that with the Super Nintendo and NES Micros and get some cool polls on those. But obviously in those cases, they're like, well, we're charging this much. We can give you this much of that total. So can we make a deal here? And it's going to be limited. Here, it just seems much harder for those deals to happen. So, yeah.
Right. And Marino and other folks in chat have pointed out Gargoyles Quest Capcom and Alone in the Dark is definitely not Nintendo. So maybe there is a possibility there. I bring it up because there's 2 series that I specifically want on the GBAs here. One of them being the Sonic Advance series.
Sure.
And I will continue pounding this drum that the Sonic Advance games, specifically Sonic Advance 2, some of the best 2D Sonic games outside of Sonic Mania. But also, Grubb, I need my Castlevania. I need my Circle of the Moon.
Yeah, so those probably won't happen, right? Because they put Castlevania Collection, Advanced Collection out on the Switch to buy separately. So,
motherfucker.
Yeah, so that's why, like, I thought that's why we might not get Game Boy Advance at all, because a lot of those companies realized we could repackage most of these Game Boy Advance games, and the nostalgia is so strong that people will just pay that premium price. And the Advanced Collection is, what, $30 normally? It's been on sale quite a few times. So at this point, Jam, no one to blame but yourself. You got to get out there and just buy that thing. Just commit.
I don't want to.
I know.
Can I get coupons?
You can
use my coupons?
You can use your coupons, but in that case, you really might be losing money. You might be paying extra at that point. So, yeah, it's $12 on PSN right now. Yeah, stuff like that. So, Although it's getting on Switch. That's definitely where to play it. All right. What else we got here? Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. April 21st, new release date. We got to see this game for the first time since they delayed it because of the war in Ukraine. The war's not over, but I feel like they think like, well, no one's gonna yell at us anymore. People are yelling about other things now. Although I don't think anyone ever really would have yelled at them. Still though. Yeah, right. So, but still, April 21st, it's almost a full year delay. I think it is actually a full year delay. Pre-orders are available now. This game, not $70 though. So they're not doing 70 with everything. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I was happy to see this, Jan.
Yes. I was kind of thinking that it might get swept to the under the carpet for some reason, just never come out.
That's where I was too.
But I'm happy it's seen the light of day.
Perdelis says, just play Wargroove. It's not as good.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, and I don't think it's as good. Pikmin 4 has a dog, an ice-type Pikmin. So we got a new trailer for that. Looks very cute. I still am very... although it looks just like Pikmin 3 Deluxe to me, which I like, but I'm like, Pikmin's the one where Nintendo kind of doing photorealism in the background. Like, maybe they could go even hard, actually, if this was 4K. like maybe it's time to go 4K. Marino says he doesn't understand Pikmin. How do you feel about Pikmin? You ever tried one?
I tried the Niantic Pikmin game and didn't know how to play that either.
Sure. You just
so
you just walk.
Still in the dark.
You just walk. You don't have to do anything else.
Okay, fun.
I'll tell you and Marino the same thing. Pikmin 3 Deluxe has got a really great loop of you can get so far into a level and while the clock is ticking for the day cycle, the night-day cycle, and you're gathering up more Pikmin, more resources, you're unlocking shortcuts, and then you see like, oh man, there's a part over there that I need to either save my spaceship or whatever you're doing in Pikmin 3, and then so, okay, well, the sun's going down. We got to get back home or else we're going to get eaten. So let's get back home. And now tomorrow I have a plan to go get that part by going across that bridge I just knocked down. I have more Pikmin of this type now because I found a bunch. I saw a little enclave where there's probably some more Pikmin. I can go get them on the way. Send one of my, you control 3 characters at a time in Pikmin 3. So you like, I'll send one character back to the ship with them. The other 2 will go forward. We'll get in this battle for that part. And it's always been kind of that way. They were moving in the direction of you having more characters to control so you could split up stuff. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is the one where they have that loop completely nailed down, and it's also the easiest and most intuitive to play because the controls just work. That was one of the issues with Pikmin 1 and 2 on the GameCube. It's like, it kind of feels right. But then when people got it on the Wii, like actually pointing where you want to throw your Pikmin on the screen worked really well. But also then you're playing on the Wii and people for some reason, I'm right there with them. I don't know, sometimes gaming on the Wii just felt weird. So this is like them figuring out all those problems and just nailing it. And Pikmin 3 Deluxe is a fantastic game. So if you've tried Pikmin before and haven't tried Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I say give it another shot because they really did nail it.
All right, Grubb. I'll make friends with the little leaf people and throw them at the big, mean-looking things.
Yes. All right, where are we at next up? Oh, well, I guess in the trailer we did see that dog. How'd you feel about that little puppy that the Pikmin have to ride on and can get across the water and it keeps them safe? That's cool. I like that.
I wish it had a little actual nose. There's something missing about it, but I love it nonetheless.
Yep. Okay. Samba de Amigo Party Central. Samba de Amigo is back. It is like the Wii version, so you're going to be using the Joy-Cons as your Sambas. So that's a little bit disappointing. They haven't said anything about selling like individual Samba controllers or even dockable things. But still, it looks like a lot of fun. And I'm just wondering, Mike explained this to me. It has 40 songs, they say, from genres across the world. They haven't said anything about like the original game having a bunch of Sega, like weird Sega songs and Sega covers, which is, I think, things you had to download to the VMU on the Dreamcast as DLC. It was like early DLC for the console. I'm like, well, I hope they just do that again. Apparently, it might have been free. I don't know, but I mean, even if it wasn't, like, yeah, do that again. Make sure we at least get those Sega songs in there, because whenever Sega does stuff and then goes into its own history, that's usually when it's the best. So, give me some more Samba de Amigo. How do you feel about rhythm games beyond Hi-Fi Rush?
Oh, let's bring them back, baby.
Yeah.
Let's bring back all these plastic instruments. Let's do it. I guess I didn't know that Samba de Amigo had such a reverence. I wasn't expecting Dan to go wild over Samba de Amigo and want shoot maracas.
Yep.
but give me dockable shoot maracas.
Dockable shoot maracas would be the name of the episode if this was the Bombcast. But Bait and Kados remaster that was rumored. It's happening. That's an early deck building game. I never actually played them, but people seem to like them. You play as an angel boy. I don't know. It's
all right.
It's weebish. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective for the DS, now being ported to the Switch, so people will get a whole new chance to play that game. This is beloved. I've never played it. I know I need to. So, Grubb, what is the first syllable of Baton? I don't know how to say it, guys. I'm sorry. I'm never going to learn, and I don't care to. Is it not
Baton Kaidos? I've always thought it was Baton Kaidos.
I thought it was Baton Kaidos, but I don't know. Baton Kaidos. Oh, whatever. I'm baiting.
Just baiting.
Just over here baiting. I'm baiting for Katamari. We love Katamari reroll plus Royal Reverie.
Yeah.
Bring me more Katamari games on the Switch, absolutely. And then Splatoon 3 DLC. Paid DLC will arrive in 2 waves, with Inkopolis launching this spring, and Side Order, which is the name of the second one, coming at a later date. Nintendo said the first expansion will let players relive a functional version of Inkopolis from the original Splatoon, while Side Order will feature an all-new single-player campaign. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam announced. I love the Layton games. Bring them back. Yeah. It's time. It looked really good. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Wave 4 has a new Yoshi's Island course. Not like new Yoshi's Island, which was a game that was bad. A new course based on the original Yoshi's Island, which is good. And Birdo is a playable character. You're a big Birdo stan. I know that about you, Jan, right?
I have never been able to unsee that photo of inside Birdo, and I don't want to inflict that on the rest of the internet. Or
that's kind of you.
Yeah.
You live with that yourself. Absolutely. There's a demo for Octopath Traveler 2 available now. Progress will carry over. I feel like a lot of this stuff is like, this will probably be there. And there it was. And then Sea of Stars demo available now as well.
It looks real pretty.
Yeah,
real pretty.
I might want to hop in that one and check that out because it looks real good. And I think it looks fun, which is always a strange thing for a JRPG. All right, that's the Nintendo Direct Roundup. We have some other news to relate to this. Nintendo says $70 Switch game pricing will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. This comes from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. Nintendo's highly anticipated The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is joining a growing number of new games this generation that have a $70 price tag. The good news is that this doesn't appear to be a consistent trend for first-party Nintendo games, which usually retail for $60, as the company says that it'll be evaluating this approach on a case-by-case basis. And this is the quote, "We determined the suggested retail price for any Nintendo product on a case-by-case basis," Nintendo PR said to Game Informer when questioned about the more premium price of the Breath of the Wild sequel. Yes, that might sound like good news, but Jan, guess what? They could say yes in every case. It's just a case-by-case. They could just say, I think this will, in fact, be a trend. This then be like, well, it won't always be 70. And sure, yes, some of these games announced. Pikmin 4 is 60. Yes. Metroid Prime 4 got taken down from retailers for a reason. Everybody, that's probably going to be 70. Is it back? I don't know if it's back. But Metroid, yes, the next Mario will be $70. This is going to turn into a trend real fast. A trend so much of a trend that when the next system launches, a game like Pikmin 4 would be $70. What do you think?
Oh my God. Despite them saying case-by-case basis, a good chunk of games on the Switch moving forward will be $70. And then I'm just thinking, oh man, that's going to be terrible for the folks in Nintendo jail like you and I, especially when the time comes around for another Pokemon game, because they love to bundle both of those together.
Yeah.
Those are already pretty pricey at like 120,
God, did they go full 140, you think?
I think so.
Man.
I think so. Not even having any type of pack in. Yeah, people in the Twitch chat, the next Smash is going to be 70.
Definitely.
If we get another Luigi's Mansion, like a Luigi's Mansion 4, that for some reason rides the line in my head of like 60 to 70 that I can't quite nail down.
But I rode that line with Metroid Dread, and then I played it. It was like, man, whatever. If you got to charge me $60, and they don't have to do anything. It's not that it's a have to do. But in my head, it's like, if you have to do this so I get Metroid Dread, whatever, here's your $60 for sure. I'm happy to pay it because I love that game so much. And they know that. know that they've seen the evidence of them being able to get away with it time after time and case after case. So yeah, it's case by case basis. But as Chat was saying, in every case, it will be yes, eventually. Analysts view UK antitrust warning as a signal Xbox Activision deal is close to being approved. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. The UK Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, their provisional findings on Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard are a sign the deal is close to being approved, according to Wedbush securities analyst Nick McKay and Michael Pachter, our boy Michael Pachter. They both suggested in a recent research note that the regulator's antitrust warning is a signal that the UK knows it has a losing legal argument. This is something we've heard before about FTC. The FTC definitely does. One thing for me, Jan, throughout all this is once it starts involving all these other international regulators, I'm like, well, tap me out. I don't really. I was struggling to keep up with the FTC. I don't know. Right. I don't know if the CMA has a strong case or not. They might. It depends on what the laws are there. But the argument basically here is from Pachter, who the jokes should be in chat that, if the Pachter's saying it, well, then the opposite's going to happen. That's always the case. Love to you, Michael Pachter, whatever. But the argument here is that the CMA, the UK regulator, the EC, the European Commission in Europe, and the FTC in America are actually jockeying for position here to be the one that gets to lead the charge on forcing Microsoft into a position where it wants to make concessions so that they become the lead negotiator in those concessions so that they can get all the good PR of we are cracking down, we are doing something about this, and we forced Microsoft into a position where it did something they didn't fully want to do. But in the end, we approved it because, we got a good deal for Microsoft. We got our our pint of blood. What's that? Our pound of flesh. I can't remember what the saying is. I kind of buy that. I definitely buy that in the case of the FTC. I just don't know. The EU and the UK have much stronger regulations, so I would assume that their footing would be stronger. So I'm not ready to fully buy this argument. I still think that there's as easily a 50-50 chance for this thing to still fall apart, especially if they do go to the table and the CMA is like, yeah, we want to negotiate. We want to negotiate for you to spin off Call of Duty and sell it to someone else. In that case, this deal's just never going to happen, right?
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it'd be a clear-cut deal when this got announced. Was it last year?
Yeah. I mean, because these kinds of deals always just got approved, especially because they were vertical and not the horizontal merger. This is like them going, but yeah, this is unprecedented times, right?
And I feel like Sony was able to acquire, Microsoft for a while was able to acquire a bunch of studios, no problem for the most part. Same thing with Sony acquiring a bunch of studios, Bungie specifically, that I was surprised. Activision Blizzard, a much bigger entity than any other studio that has been acquired, other than Bethesda. But it's wild. I don't want to say that I'm getting sick of it. I just, it's one of those things of like, all right, I guess this is a new update. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. We'll keep trolling, not trolling. We'll just keep tolling along on this and just figure it out eventually. And I guess maybe we just haven't seen it as much, but I think I'm happy that we haven't seen as many headlines of Sony coming up with like a weird excuse of like, to draw this along further, that now, because it's just like the CMA getting involved in all these other third parties, that okay, now the actual business is being done.
Right. I think that's why we're not hearing from Sony. Like we're not hearing from them because now Sony's actually behind those doors having conversations directly with regulators. I mean, that's definitely what was happening in the UK. And then we heard stories of Jim Ryan himself going to the EU, going to Brussels, I think, to have those conversations with the EC. So, and then obviously they have teams in America, lobbyists working with the FTC. So it's like those conversations are still happening. They just stopped happening in headlines at gamesindustry.biz and VGC and stuff like that. Instead, now they're just actually having those conversations behind closed doors. But I guess that's another part of this process. I'm with you. I do continue to be a little bit tired of the story. We're updating it because it's like, well, is this a step forward? Does this add more of an explanation to what just happened? I guess so. Maybe. I don't know if I fully buy it. We'll see.
Yeah.
PUBG owner Crafton is opening its first Canadian AAA studio. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Crafton, the South Korean video game holding company behind PUBG Battlegrounds, is setting up what it's called its first Canadian AAA game studio in Montreal. The studio, which will be named Crafton Montreal Studio, is being led by Patrick Methe, a former game director at Ubisoft Montreal. Methe was best known for directing Far Cry 3, 4, 5, and New Dawn, as well as Rainbow Six Extraction. He has already been joined by fellow Rainbow Six Extraction developers Benoit Frappé and Frederic Dureau, as well as Martin Paradis, who was most recently an advanced gameplay engineer at WB Games Montreal. They want to scale the studio up quickly to 150 people. That's what's happening still in Montreal. There's a ton of talent there, but there's not that much talent. So these people are going to be, vying for every single person who could develop a video game and design a video game, because another 150 person to 500 person studio in Montreal is going to make that competition even harder. But it turns out there's a lot of talent there because the tax incentives have made it really still very good to open studios there, and yet another company's doing it. But yeah, another 150 person studio popping up making video games. That's the video game business sort of continuing to chug along, regardless of what's happening with layoffs everywhere else inside the video games industry. People are like, well, there's still money to be made making video games, so we're going to go to where everyone else is, and we're going to vie for that talent, and we're going to make it happen. So I suppose a good sign that while it's easy to look at the way the industry is freaking out and being like, well, I guess maybe we should begin putting our heads down for whatever's going to happen next. No, most corporations working inside of gaming still see a reason to invest in big moves like this, right?
Yeah, it's good to see, especially given all of the layoffs that have been happening, that there are studios opening, and there is the possibility for all these studios opening that they may eventually close if the game underperforms. But it seems like they're very hopeful to have that number of, like, we want to build a studio to have 150 people here. Folks in chat have thought about this, and I'm thinking about this too. People perhaps jumping ship from Ubisoft Montreal also.
Oh yes.
And wanting to get away from that overall company culture and just go with something that unproven for right now, but may at least be better in the long run or in the short term.
Even if it's not better, even if it's like you mostly the status quo in terms of the kind of environment you might be working in. Going back and forth between these companies means you're going to get more money because you're going to be able to demand more each time. So if you do go back to work at Ubisoft and you hate working there, which we need to keep doing stuff about that. They need to keep making changes. But if that's the reality, at least they're going to have to pay you more to get you back. So get yours, basically, is what I'm saying to the developers.
Please.
Final story here. PS5 just had its biggest sales week since launch in Japan. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. PlayStation 5 just had its biggest sales week in Japan since the console's launch in November 2020. Sales of Sony's console topped 93,000 units during the week ended February 5th, 2023, according to Famitsu. PS5 has only bettered that total during its launch week, when it sold 118,085 units, according to Game Data Library, a website that collates Japanese sales data. It also notes that sales of Sony's consoles during the past five tracked weeks were higher than sales during its first 4 months of 2022. The jump in sales reflects the greater availability of stock. Last month, Sony signaled the PS5's long battle with supply issues was finally over, and the company has said it expects the console to smash PS4's sales records for the first 3 months of the calendar year. Last week's strong PS5 performance isn't reflected in the software chart, where the top 10 positions are all held by Nintendo. This is, again, we knew this was coming. I think on Tuesday, we were talking a little bit about this, about I think maybe Sony planning to have a big year. I think since then, the word is they're expecting to sell like 10 million systems, PS5 systems, during the months of October, November, and December. Like in that 3-month period, 10 million systems. So on Tuesday, you were like, I think they're going to catch up to where the PS4 was at this point by the end of this year. So does Sony. Sony thinks they're going to do that as well, and it's based on stuff like this, because they're 4 to 5 million behind where the PS4 was at this point, all because of the supply constraints. It seems like they're expecting to just sprint to catching up to that, and then probably go beyond that here very fast. I just don't see demand for PS5 going down, even if supply is answered, right?
Yeah. The thing that I keep going back to in my head is I just don't know what everyone's going to be playing other than God of War, Horizon. But I guess like that's fine. That's fine for Sony, right? That people will be buying the consoles to not only play those games that Sony is publishing, but also just to have a PS5 because, people can finally get it.
I am going to take us over to the poll from yesterday now. Let's check that out. Yesterday we asked, what grave are you going to be buried in? What grade do you give the Nintendo Direct from yesterday? A, B, C, or D, or lower? 7.8% gave it a D or lower. 19% gave it a C. 39.8% gave it a B, and 33.3% said an A. So most people in the meaty part of the bell curve there is B. I think a B, B plus. For me, it's basically an A though, because Metroid Prime, Game Boy Advance, Advance Wars coming back. There weren't any megatons, except for me. Those things are megatons to me. Like that's just the reality. So
I just feel I don't know what else folks would have wanted if they wanted like a solid hard A plus.
I think people want the big surprise that's never been rumored and comes out completely out of nowhere, and maybe even one or two of those. Let's see the Mario game. I guess that's always rumored, but let's see the Mario game and it blows us away. I think that would have put most people into an A.
I guess what pushed it to an A for me almost immediately was seeing the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff on Nintendo Switch Online.
Same. I was already I was already happy with what we were seeing so far, and then that happened. Yep.
Yeah, like I know I could play those games in a variety of ways, but just seeing it officially there, it's just like, okay, let's go.
I'm going to write up a new poll for tomorrow. In the meantime, Jan, what do we have going on the website? What else do we have going on?
After this, we've got an episode of the Blight Club. I see that you've come dressed and ready to go.
Yeah, you know
it. Later today, we got an episode of the Voicemail Dump Truck. And then Friday Night Forking. Nothing bad can happen on a Friday night. Happening later today. Tomorrow, GameS Mornings as per usual. And an episode of Unprofessional Fridays. We're going to try and get some quick looks in the can, perhaps. We might look at Metroid Prime Remaster.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll look at the Nintendo Switch Online stuff.
Yeah. We'll try to make some time for that stuff. I even want to maybe look at Sea of Stars and Octopath Traveler 2, but time is limited. We'll see what we can make happen with the time that we do have. All right. This is the poll. You guys can kind of see this. I know it's cut off. Does GBA on Nintendo Switch Online make you more likely to get or keep your $50 per year expansion pack? That's not how you spell that. Expansion pack subscription. And then that's a yes or no question. That's the way we like to do it here. Because that gives people a lot of reason to be like, here's why you should have other options. Okay. I'm hitting the button. I'm sending that off. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you have expansion pack? Do you have the $50 tier?
I didn't realize I did.
Yeah, you did. So you open it up. You're like, oh, this is working. And like, all right, I guess I do. Have you played any of the N64 games?
No.
Yeah. I do not think you are alone.
I did check out GoldenEye.
Okay.
Just to see it. And then I was like, this is what people were excited about.
It was a different time, Jan. You got to understand. You don't have to understand, actually. It just was a different time. We didn't know any better.
People just liked polygons in a different way, huh?
Yeah, we were very hot for polygons back then. Definitely.
Weirdos.
Yes,
no
we
shame,
were.
But
no,
weirdos.
I felt a lot of shame. Okay, Jan, first I want to say thank you so much for taking today to speak with me about video games. I really appreciate it, man.
It's my favorite part of Thursdays.
And all of you watching, all of you listening, thank you so much. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. Okay, hot mics, hot Jans, hot Jeffs.
Hot microphones.
Hot microphones. I'm free, right? I don't have to do anything else today, right?
I haven't seen Dan pop in. Not Dan.
Oh,
but
God damn it, it's worse.
I know what you have to do.
What do I have to do?
You're dressed for it. You're ready to go.
I don't know what you're Okay. Okay. I don't think. Actually, I don't even know if they could hear you guys because the thing was catching you. So the sound thing was like, nope, that's not a human voice. No way.